One. And we are back after a number of months right now. And James, say what sales Buckley is back on the show. And we're going to run a different theme today, a little bit of a different theme. So most people know, whoever does recognize the faces and the names. We're in sales. We run anything from cold calling, prospecting, outbound, whatever the case may be, to help teams sell better. That's James's expertise and his forte. Me, I'm doing the same thing. But one thing that has changed dramatically this year is our appearance. So I don't know if you still recognize the other guy on this screen, but we've both engaged in different transformation programs where our lives have changed dramatically. And now, what was it? A couple of weeks ago, we're like, hey, what's going on? What are you working on? What are you working on? Hey, bro, let's run the show. Let's see what goes on. We had no topic, no agenda today. No. So we're going to run it on fitness, end of year kind of reflections, what kind of good habits we can build for the new year, and how these three things helped us this year change our lives, really. No bullshit. We changed our lives. I'm in a better place. I'm earning the most I have ever earned in my life. I look the best I've ever looked in my life. I don't have a haircut today, so it might be a little bit down. But in terms of an all-around change, an improvement of well-being, fulfillment, I'm in a better place because I've undergone a really, really amazing transformation program, fitnessly, physically, mentally, spiritually, and everything that comes in between. So, James, if you want to run your side, what you run it, dude. What kind of pain did that create for you in your
business? First of all, your intro skills have taken a massive leap forward since you started this thing. I remember when it was just like, what's going on? I don't even know what I'm going to call this thing. I went through like 4 or 5 names. I think you were like, not sure. But what I love about what you're saying here is that both of us sort of decided that we were going to focus on something really personal. And I think inadvertently, it ended up affecting us professionally in ways I didn't really predict. I think both of us joined, quote unquote programs. I would not bucket mine into a fitness program. I think fitness was a part of the lifestyle program that I signed up for. And I don't even think the person I signed up with to do it, I don't even think they knew that it was a lifestyle program and not a fitness program until him and I started speaking about it in those terms. And now we're going to partner and start doing things with salespeople to help them better their own lives. So the quick and dirty update is that I was started this year at 294 pounds. And a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. You and I had that conversation many times. And this year, I dropped down to 241 pounds. So I dropped over 50 pounds in about 9 months with no Ozempic or any type of drug activity at all, just diet and exercise control. So this came with 2 things. 1, regular resistance training. 2, steps. And I cannot talk more highly about steps and how to use those steps to get the most out of the fat burn. But then also, and the most important thing, is my addiction to food, which has always been the biggest hurdle for me when it came to my health and wellness. I replaced an addiction to hard drugs when I sobered up with an addiction to food. And that, of course, put 100+ pounds on me. So I'm happy to show on this particular show, because it's you and me, and I never hide anything from my friends. But this is the before and after here of what 294 looked like at the beginning of this year and what 241 looks like now. And you can see it there, right? The slimmer jawline, the muscle definition alone, the improved mood. My happy was always high, but man, on a different planet at this point, right? Because I'm much happier when I look in the mirror and see myself. And then, of course, you can see, for those of you that aren't familiar with massive weight loss, you don't buy clothing until the weight loss is done. So my shorts are kind of on the right. But I wanted to give you the context so that people could see that before and after. And the real hero here is my friend Hassani Din, the HD Method online coaching, but really it's a lifestyle shift. Honestly, my big hat tip goes to them.
So, what was it, James, for you? I had a moment in time. I shared it with you, but what was it for you that really triggered it? Because something very, very different has to happen in your life to want to make these changes.
Yeah. So the short story for that is that 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and it really scared the shit out of me because I didn't even know what those numbers really meant. My blood sugar was a 467. That's immediate hospitalization type of numbers. My A1C was a 10.8, which is astronomically high. For those of you that are unfamiliar with what those numbers are supposed to be for a regular human, we are
Hmm.
supposed to have a blood sugar level of about 90 to 110 on the high side 2 hours after we eat. On the low side would be resting. So 467 is outrageously high for blood glucose level. The A1C, which is like how much sugar is actually in your system because your body can't create the insulin to process it, that right there is supposed to be around a 5.1, and mine was a 10.8. So the sugar content in me was astronomical. My diet was atrocious. The numbers really put me at a disadvantage, so I decided to get a trainer, and I lifted physically for 2 years. Brought my number down in 2 years to a regular, manageable level, constantly testing, pricking my finger, taking my blood sugar, and then getting regular tests done to get the A1C. And my doctor was watching it drop to 8, and then 7, and then 6, and so forth. But I wasn't changing my diet enough to see the physical changes in the mirror that I wanted to see, right? I wanted to
Hmm.
be fit and trim. I wanted to earn the physique back that I once had as a younger man. So
Hmm.
I I met Jared Robin, who's the CEO and founder of Rev Genius, at the Golden Hour event in Brooklyn. This happened in March. And I said,
I
man,
remember that.
you're looking great, you know? And he was like, you too, because I had dropped a little bit of weight, grew my hair out, we look different. And I was like, he's like, I've dropped like 15 more pounds recently. And I was like, no shit, man, like where? And he was like, oh, I'm working with this guy. And he introduced me to Hassani Din. After a single conversation, and he gave me a spreadsheet, and he was like, I don't want you to change anything. I just want you to write down the calories, the protein of everything that you're eating this month. That's it. After 2 days, I'm realizing that my calories were so high, it was bananas. I mean, I was having 6 and 8 and 10,000 calorie days, just eating the way that I normally.
Wow.
So he was like, okay, let's make a change. You have 2,250 calories every day. That's your limit. And you have to hit 190 grams of protein every day. This game caused me to drop, and again, I'll do another screen share here so that everybody can see this,
Mm.
right? I came totally prepared to like share the results. You know what it is.
I
Like,
love it.
you got to see it. Like if you're not going to see it,
You see it to believe it.
you do. You have to see it to believe it. So here's the progression, right? And I just want to point at the consistent number, right? And it took me a little while. I'm not a scale person. I never really put any value on the number that was on the scale. So here's the starting point, 294 on March 13th. It took me a month to get on the scale, a month and a couple weeks, and I was down 290, so I dropped 4 pounds. Then 4 days later, I dropped another 4 pounds because I got bought in, right? And I was like, okay, let's
Yeah.
dial in. Look at the next one. I dropped a pound. The next one, I dropped 5 pounds, right? And week after week, you can see this consistent drop. And then right here, I went to Scotland and I walked for like 2 weeks. We did at least 20,000 steps a day. I came back from Scotland after drinking all that scotch and eating as whatever the hell I wanted to eat. And I did not gain a single pound. And it was because
Wow.
the steps allowed me to enjoy myself and let go of the strict diet for a brief period. And my body had already adapted. I'm telling you, it's a lifestyle shift, right? You can
Of
continuously
course.
the drops here, and I make little notes, and I've plateaued right here in the 241 to 244 range. And I've yet to get back on the scale in the last 2 weeks because I've been traveling. And to be frank,
Yeah.
240 is my goal. That was my goal, and I'm hovering right there. I'm still lifting and building because I want to keep the definition going, and I still want to be a big fella. I don't want to be a little guy. So that's the transition that you're witnessing happen in real time.
It's amazing that you went through it. So, what do you think was the hardest part about getting into some consistent habits, though?
I think once you see the results, it starts to get easier right away.
Yeah.
So I think the hardest part was waiting 30 days to jump on the scale and like wondering if all of these changes were even really making a difference. Because I started that first month, I walked only 10,000 steps a day. But then I wrote down
Okay.
food I was eating, right? And, as you go through it, it only takes a couple days for you to be like, holy crap, I eat way too much, right? And you start to like do it yourself. And this is a part of the program is like accountability. Hassani Din, the trainer himself, is unable to coach millions of people, thousands of people himself, right? So
Hmm.
like the program forces you to be the coach. He gives you the call. Every week you talk, you ask him questions. How are you feeling? He wants to know that stuff. How are the cravings? This type of stuff is stuff he can help with. But it's very like no helicopter moms here,
Hmm.
right? You have no choice. When you start writing down everything that passes your lips and you start really looking at those numbers, the changes come naturally. And
Hmm.
next thing you know, your relationship with food is completely different because you're like, that cheeseburger is not big enough for me for that amount of calories. So no thank you to the cheeseburger. However, I'm going to do the 10-ounce sirloin with a baked potato and asparagus. And that is like 800 calories and like 60 grams of protein that immediately go towards your goal.
Yeah.
And you earn that meal by doing great things in the gym. You earn that meal by seeing the weight drop consistently, and you don't deprive yourself. You budget those calories and that protein. And if you do this and you keep the steps up and you constantly lift, resistance train at all, you're going to win.
Mm.
Guarantee it.
Listen, I think one thing I want to highlight for those that are watching and that are generally curious about this, some people, well, I would say a good majority of people are not convinced that a coach works. I can speak to that myself, and then I could speak to the point of how important it is, and then
Yeah.
where I'm at right now, where I've gone through X transformation. But had I had a coach, the transformation that took 11 months could have probably happened at 3. And now I've actually just paid my $1,000 for a couple of months to now get a nutritionist, fitness, overall, all around coach that can accelerate my journey. So for those that aren't convinced about a coach, again, what do you think it is about that makes a difference from just, I'm going to just go to the gym and stay consistent?
Yeah. So I think it's twofold.
But not
First,
eat.
say what?
But not eat right. But not eat. The caveat to that would be they go to the gym and do well and consistent, but they don't incorporate good healthy eating into it.
So here's the thing: is a trainer really needed? That is a judgment call on your part. There's no right answer here. Pragmatism. Know thyself. Right? Do you need that kind of coach? Go find that kind of coach. I
Mm-hmm.
personally can hold myself accountable for results, set a goal, and work towards it.
Mm-hmm.
I can do it myself. What I used my coach slash trainer slash nutritionist slash lifestyle coach, if you will, for is once a week, I get my list of questions that I have out and go, tell me more about this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me send you this video of how I do these tricep pull downs. What can you tell me about my form? Right? And he's like, straighten out your back. At the end, separate that rope and squeeze and hold it for a second. You're going to get exponentially more growth out of that motion. These
Mm-hmm.
are the types of things I needed, educational things. You have to find the coach that gives you the thing that you need most. I don't need Hassani hovering over me. And frankly, Hassani doesn't want to hover over me, right?
Yeah.
No coach does. No one signs up for that's not awesome for any coach,
Mm-hmm. Of
right?
course.
But I will say this. There are certain things that come along with what makes a good coach that you should know. If that coach is interested in working out with you but never consults you about your diet, that's not a good coach for you.
Of course.
If that coach never puts you through something that they get to actually see your movement in the gym, whether it's a recording of you or something you do live with them online, that's probably not going to be a long-term fit form became super important for me to see the right results. Everybody that's ever lifted anything consistently knows form is everything. And if you can't get it
Yep.
right, you're probably going to hurt yourself more than you're going to help yourself. So
Absolutely.
that kind of information is what I needed. So I gravitated towards that. I also needed somebody that understood how food should be consumed, not the way I was consuming food like a damn monster.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, that's how it happened. So if I share my perspective on my first journey with a transformation coach was in 2017. And that was after a breakup. So it's weird. I don't know why. It's always like some crazy situation has to happen for me to go into these moments. But that
Trauma
was a
will
breakup.
always be a catalyst for change.
Look, it's a great. I think it's a great catalyst to anger, frustration, sometimes revenge. As much as they say you don't want to live off that, because what happens when that goes away? Then what
You
do you
become
feed off?
addicted to the trauma, and then you look for the trauma so you can
Exactly.
get the change, and that's a terrible psychological cycle.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and that's what happened. So I went through that transformation. It took me 9 months, and then I popped a hernia. And I had to stop. I couldn't get back in the gym, and it was my second hernia in my entire lifestyle.
I threw my shoulder and
I
had a break too, man. I know exactly what it is. An injury, any kind of injury throws you off, and you're like, no.
it damages everything, dude. I was really, really down from that, and I just saw my body start to gain, just pack on pounds. And the coach I used to work, I was a bad, what do you say, mentee. I was a bad kind of client in terms of I would be having my food planned for the week, and then Friday night, it'd be Friday night in London, and I'd go have 10 Jack Daniels and a doner kebab, right? Or a shawarma with a bunch of fries and put it on, and he's like, this guy is the fucking worst client ever. And fast forward, though, through my time where I was like, I need a coach again. He's like, nope, I'm not taking you as a client. I said, is there any reason? Yeah, you're a terrible client.
You're a terrible
Fair
client.
enough. Fair enough. Okay. So then I went through 4 other coaches that ended up being a nightmare, absolute nightmare. And then it came to, again, beginning of this year where I went through a major life crisis. And that life crisis really, really tipped me upside down. So much so, James, that in January, I think I told you, you probably saw it on my face. I was at a point where I was ready to give up, like fully give up.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, and that wasn't nice. But there was a moment where, like I said, I had to come to terms with myself and say, am I going to be this bum? Am I going to let this ruin me? Am I going to let this define who I am? Or am I going to make a change? Now, just for context, got to that gym 1:30 a.m., started to get fit again in terms of just consistent habits because I couldn't afford a coach at that time. So when money is tight, then you can't afford a coach. What's the next best thing? Just be consistent with your habits, right? Good habits. So I got those habits in place. And then my eating, still knowing how important eating is, but because I couldn't afford a nutritional coach, I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy. I think I mentioned to you, Eddie Abu. Did you ever have a chance to check out that guy, Eddie Abu?
But I did go follow him after you and I talked about it.
Yeah, so Eddie Abu, he is big on like the carnivore diet, and maybe you could speak on this too. And what that meant was just meat, eggs, veg, and fruit, no carbs.
Yeah,
because I was dropping weight.
I understand, and I want to talk about this for a minute because what I learned is that for years I watched content and influencers and fitness gurus talk about the low carb, no carb diet. And when I started working out consistently, and I'm talking about 5 days a week, that's how often I'm in the gym, and I started lifting all the time, I would get gassed out really soon. So I went to my trainer, of course, and hey, I'm noticing that I'm getting less reps sooner with the same weight. And he was like, oh, let's gas up, right? So he says to me, you lift in the mornings. So at night, eat your carbs, right? The biggest portion of your carbs should come at night. That will convert to sugar through the evening, which you will then default to using as fuel in the morning before your body runs out of sugar and goes into fat burning mode. This is how he explained it to me. In my brain, I'm like, oh my God, this makes absolute sense. So I start eating my potatoes, my sweet potatoes, my starches, my breads all at night because I'm going 5 days a week to the gym and lifting medium and then heavy and then lightweight with high reps. Like I'm mixing things up and doing these routines over and over again. And the weight is just falling off of me. So all that is to say, it's not about removing carbs. You need carbs if you're doing strenuous things like running, walking 20 miles a day or 10 miles a day, which I do. I walk 10 miles a day, right? Right now, as you and I speak, I am already 7.5 miles into my day. Yeah.
Wow. You have been big on the steps, though.
So that's the thing, right? If I have deprived my body of fat and sugar, then I'm using stored fat to get the energy to walk. That's when our bodies burn the most fat. You learn all of this through the HD method. It's such basic information. It goes back to like grade school in our health class when they talk about how we use food to create energy and what a calorie really is, right?
Yep.
Those types of pieces of information, we forget them as adults because we live on things we know that we shouldn't live on. You know you shouldn't eat that whole bag of chips, but man, this is such a good movie, and it becomes like drone behavior. You're just like chip after chip, piece after piece of popcorn in your gullet every day, and then you're like, oh my God, my wife and I had the worst habit. We would watch The Biggest Loser and eat ice cream every single week. And we're watching The Biggest Loser while we ate ice cream. It was bananas, right? Like, these people are insane, but this is our lives as Americans. We're insane. It's just the SAD diet, the standard American diet, SAD, consists of things we absolutely know we shouldn't eat, but we thrive on, we live on them. And because it creates that dopamine hit in our brain. We are wired this way.
I love my food. Even now, my whole transformation or my whole kind of journey this year has been affected, and it has roller coasted up and down because of my lack of attention to detail on simple things like this. So as much as I mentioned the Eddie Abu diet, anybody from the UK is watching this will probably know who he is. Get that shit out of my face. Get that shit out of my face. I'm fucking stupid. What is this, right?
So that's the part I don't get behind, right? And that's there because pragmatism is the key for all things health related, right? What works for you is what you should keep doing. It's not everybody believes that removing carbs is best for them, and some people quite literally don't need to deprive themselves of carbohydrates. When we lift, we need that energy, in my opinion, that's worked for me. So I'm not going to deny myself that pizza. I'm just going to have one slice instead of 9.
No, it makes sense. Absolutely, it makes sense. I know, I agree with you. But that's what I recognized very quickly, which was in terms of the weight loss and the insulin reset. So one of the things is that reset of the usage of insulin. I don't know how to put the kind of wording around it. But to drop that, right? If you drop that and start to get your body used to a place where it does have proteins, veg, and good carbs, agreed, then that insulin does reset it. Obviously, your weight drops, and then when you want to bulk up again, then you start adding those carbs. But there were ways. But listen, wait. So when I did my first transformation program, though, when it was really, really effective, one of the differences that I did notice very quickly was I did have rice and potatoes and sweet potatoes in that diet, and I shredded very quickly.
Right.
So again, it goes up and down, but now I'm at a point where I'm struggling, right? So I've gone through my weight loss journey. I've got my physique to an okay point, but now I'm at that plateau where I do need proper eating now, good carbs, good veg, good fruit, good protein, the right intake with the steps and the cardio.
Citrus is key.
And that's what levels you up.
I want to talk about the insulin levels for a minute. Now, I am not an expert. Disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I've never been to medical school. I am merely a person that has recently been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and have dealt with it for 3 years and have managed to manage it and get healthy without the use of drugs, just diet and exercise. That's the experience I'm speaking from. My medical doctor has told me, unfortunately, James, regardless of how healthy you get, you will always be a type 2 diabetic at this point. Once that scale is tipped, it's very difficult to reverse that. You do not reverse diabetes. What you do is manage it through diet and exercise so that you are not drug dependent. That is how it has been explained to me by my
Mhm.
medical doctor, who I tend to lean towards.
No, of course, of course. So what else do you think makes a big change about going through something like this? What else has been affected in your life then?
So I used to say that there's a correlation between our health and wellness and our mental health and our productivity professionally, and I've always believed that. But I think this year, this weight loss program, this regimen, if you will, that I've been on, has really proven that. I've become more confident in many ways. I think that
Hmm.
I've learned that my value is a perception that varies from place to place. I have stepped back from wanting to be in the spotlight because I'm trying to be in my own spotlight for a while and work on myself so
Hmm.
that I can live
Hmm.
longer for my family. Uh,
Absolutely.
I think that the fitness and health focus has become a priority for me, and that's helped my energy level, which was already high, admittedly, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
My positive has always been on a different level, but like I feel like I'm on another planet at this point. And my family's life has all improved, right? They have dropped weight, improved their health. My daughter has dropped over 80 pounds at this point, and that's massive. So when you think about it from the perspective of like, what has this improved for you? Your life is like basically the only answer you can come up with. My productivity is higher. I'm less busy. How did that happen? Right? I'm less busy, but my productivity is higher. Just sit on that for a moment.
Hmm.
Right? And I think that's a crazy thing that happens to us when we're focused, when we're dialed in. You
Yep.
take what used to be 5 or 6 goals every day and realize I really only need 2.
No, it's true.
So I'm going to let these other 3 go, and I'm going to focus on these 2, and lo and behold, you start performing better. Right? Just like when you go to the gym, you could go in there and do all types of exercises, but really, you work a couple of muscle groups at a time. The same
It's
thing
very
happens
true.
professionally. We start to bucket things, and we start to get very structured and organized, just like we do in the gym.
And how about appearance? Seems like you're dressing different too.
Well, yes and no. These are all clothes that I've had for a long time that were too small. Some of them are clothes that I held on to because I got them at an event in 2016, and I was an extra large then, and I became a 3X in 2023, 2022, and remained there until 2024. This year, I've gone down to a 1X again in some brands, a 2X in others, but I'm no longer a 3X in anything. So, and my shorts are starting to fall off. Even the tie shorts that I was wearing,
Yeah.
I can't tie them enough. They still come off my hips because I've dropped, upwards of 5 inches around my waist. So when you look at it from that perspective, right, there's this thing that happens, and I could go buy new clothes, but I know that the transformation is not finished yet. And I have all these other clothes that I've waited. Why go buy the new clothes? Right? I'm just going to accept what is if I do that. And I don't want to accept what is. I want to continue to improve.
Hmm. Hmm.
This same thing happens in all the other aspects of our lives, especially if we start our day off with this. Because it sets the tone for the rest of the day, which sets the tone for the week, the month, the quarter.
It really does. And you pay attention to yourself a lot more when you look better, you feel the part, you're presentable. The whole year, you know what? I didn't buy new clothes for a whole year. I wore the same sweatpants, the same sweatshirt, the rotating three, four changes of sweatpants. Honestly, I didn't even change. I bought like t-shirts, but I washed them and everything, and my clothes were always washed. But I paid no attention to that. I didn't care about shaving. I didn't care about looking presentable. My haircut, I'd wait 3, 4 weeks. And when I saw that big change, when I was like, let me see how big of a difference this is, I went to, there's a place called Primark, and they have
I
all
know
like really,
Primark.
really,
I have
mate.
Primark clothing from Scotland up there. I know Primark.
The bargains you get there. I went and bought all
So,
new gym clothes.
shout out Primark. Where's your sponsorship at for this show?
Oh my god, you should. I need to. I need to for them. And I went and bought all new clothes, all new trainers, all new t-shirts. Mainly, but you know what it was? It was weird. I didn't buy any clothes for home. I only bought clothes for the gym.
Ah,
But The feeling, oh my God, the feeling of going into the gym with those new clothes, new shoes finally,
Yeah.
and a top that fit, and when you get your pump,
I'll tell you the one that got me. The one
you
that
need
got me.
those.
The one that got me was the first time I had to go find underwear that fit. Because
Amazing though, right?
I was like, you got to be kidding! Like, this is an incredible difference. I also, when you get to be 294 pounds, something happens to the patterns that are offered in underwear. It becomes SpongeBob and pizza and stuff. There's like signals that you're like, oh, yo, like I can't buy just regular underwear. I gotta have Cheerios on there and smiley faces and stuff. Like, like where? Because the elastic, you know what I'm saying? They don't want. And I get it, dude. Like, for me, I would say a couple of things to that. One, when I want everyone to understand, if you'd have told me I would experience none of these physical changes, more definition, more broad shoulders, more muscle, and I would only ever feel the way that I feel now, I would still do the program. Because this is not about how you look. That is a byproduct of the change that you make. And I think that's an important distinction to make. We are not suggesting that you need to look good to be successful or look good to somebody else's perception to be successful. I did this because I needed to be happier with what I saw when I looked in the mirror, and I didn't want to die from diabetes at 50 years old. That scared the ever shit out of me.
It is. So, it's the fulfillment piece. It's the fulfillment piece.
There's a sense of satisfaction that you get from bettering your lifestyle. And that is the point that I want to stress about the HD method, that changes it from being a fitness and wellness program that you could get anywhere to something that serious people that want to make change in their lives could adopt and see success with.
How do you feel confidence played into this, with the level of confidence you had entering the program to the level of confidence you have now?
So I'm fortunate because I had a very limited experience with trainers. I only had the one other trainer, Carrie Whitehead, right here locally here in Maryville, Tennessee. And she really got me into lifting. She was an animal in the gym. So beating my ass with reverse flies and curls, and you're like, this is good, 25s. I can do this. And she's like, great, give me 100. And you're like, oh my God, I'm dying. Right? She was really big on function and not just lifting, but also conditioning. And I learned the difference between those two things. And then I needed to step away from the corporate trainer and find something that was a little more tailored to me. So I did. And I found it through a connection. When it comes to the confidence side, I think seeing the results in the mirror really kicked it into gear for me. Seeing it on the scale just solidified what I was seeing in the mirror. The amount of, and I want to point to something else here that's probably worth talking about, is from a mental health perspective, there are two ways to look at compliments, right? Compliments are really awesome in some ways, but in other ways they're not. I didn't cut my hair for 2 years, and I grew really long hair. You and I talked when my hair was very long. I showed you that before and after picture. My hair was still very long in both of those pictures.
Yep.
After I dropped the weight and cut my hair and then now trimmed my beard, suddenly there's all these comments about how great I look. And I take them very well. I'm thank you so much for the love, right? But in the back of my mind, there's this little voice that goes, did I look like shit before and you never said anything to me? Right? And that is a poisonous thought that everybody that's listening to this needs to fight. Just say thank you and move on with your day, right? I was once told by somebody, if you lost some weight, your brand would be much more powerful. And I was like, oh my God, did this person just say this to me? Yes, they did. This is a perception that a lot of people have that I'll disagree with openly, but I will say that our health and wellness is directly correlated to our level of success that we can achieve in life. And anybody that denies that can look at anybody that's gone through a transformation like you and I have. And we will have a success story professionally and a success story personally to match it. I guarantee it to be true. Anyway, that's my soapbox.
Look, I agree with you. And I think people need to pay attention to it. But look, in terms of the confidence level, it all kind of, what's the word? The vibrations and frequencies is what I've been paying attention to right now, right? The vibrations and frequencies of how I operate my life. And I'm trying to live my life at a frequency that sits at the level of enlightenment, right?
Mhm.
And you've got everything that is lower than that. But these are things I had to learn. I had to learn these through my life. But again, you're right, rightfully so. It's not about looking good, right? But it is about being true to yourself and knowing who you are, right? Who
Who
you
you
are.
want
And
to be, right? Who do you want to be? You got make choices that make you into who you want to be, right?
No, it is. And remember, I said that there's a day that you will go to meet your maker, and you'll see the person you were supposed to be. And for me, I knew that I was not living up to my expectation, and I'm a little bit harder on myself. I was a very
We
look.
always are, though. Everybody
I'm
should
very
be
hard.
harder on themselves than other people are. And if you're not, and there's somebody that's harder on you than yourself, that person is not for you.
No, and it's true. And if you think about it too, like one image that really sat well with me. I don't know if you've seen this on either any of the social platforms, but there's an image of an 80-year-old man, two 80-year-old men. One of them is in a wheelchair. The other one is fit in the gym, still working out and still moving and can play with his kids. And that perspective, I've never thought of my perspective so deep in terms of my future until this year when I was about to turn 38. And the thought was, you're approaching now 40. You've got 2 years till you're 40. In 10 more years, you're 50. You're pretty much halfway through your life because the average lifespan, I mean, the average middle-aged man is 37 and a half, right? So now you're approaching 60, 70. You've got 30 more years to live and then you're dead. So I'm looking at it like, holy shit, I better get my health
that's
back.
the way we should all be looking at it, right? If you really break it down, what does life consist of? Let me tell you this. I'll tell you this way. At your funeral, I assure you that your professional partners and former colleagues will not be there.
Yep. 100% right.
That is unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've learned this year, as you know, in October I turned 43. My children are adults. One of them is serving his second tour in Kuwait right now, right? My other one is in college. That's the last one to move out, and those will be the last two. We'll be free, right? The point I want to make here is that I know that professionally I make an impact, but I'm not foolish enough to think that that's the thing that matters most in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the top of the priority list, but there are things that come before it, right? I had to lose a lot by not prioritizing family for that to be a lesson that I learned, and I'll never have to learn it again. And this is and again, like I started this because I didn't want to die at 55, and now I'm saying, at this rate, I could be ready to thrive at 55. I could have the best shape of my life if I keep going in this direction, right?
Yep.
Now, that's a goal. Thrive at 55. So you take that negative that started out as I don't want to die at 55, and you turn it into this positive of like, hey, at the rate I'm going, man, what will I look like at 55, right? The goal is like,
it's very true. It's very true.
There's so much negativity out there and so much bad advice, and I tell young people all the time, when you're on your deathbed, are you going to be thinking about that deal you closed? Probably not. You're going to be thinking about the regrets you have, about the great decisions you made, the experiences you had, the places you traveled, the family you built, the people you loved, the people you regret not loving, right? Those are things that you're going to think about on your deathbed, not that deal you lost in 1992.
No, definitely not. So if you were to wrap up that set, let's jump into tactical things to move into 2025 with this message. But if you were to wrap up that segment then on overall growth as an individual, I think fulfillment, habits, and values are the three most important things that they're the foundation of what you've done.
Yeah, I would agree. So you want me to share some habits that people can build? I got you.
Share some habits, some good values. Share a little bit about that. Those are the things that matter.
So you got to take something you love and you got to invite people in to experience it with you. And I'll use this fitness journey as a great example and give lots of different examples of other things. Number one, I started walking a lot. So when somebody would say, I'm happy to have a call, I'd be like, hey, normally I'm sure you get a Zoom meeting and everybody wants to hop on. Why don't we do like a traditional call and we can do like a walk and talk, get out, move around. Would that be nice? And a lot of people are like, absolutely. So I've been able to get between 8 and 10,000 steps additionally a day by scheduling at least 3 to 4 walk and talks, half an hour apiece on the phone, doing laps up and down a driveway. And this is a great way to take something that you need to do, move around more, and keep it productive with your work environment so that it can continue to be productive, right? Take a little notepad so you can take notes and take action after the call, right? Smart. So that's one thing. Another thing, you see the pool table behind me, right?
Yep.
I play a lot of pool. You'd be amazed at the amount of things that you have a hobby and other people that you might talk with in and out of the day have the same hobby. You know, I mean, people say, hey, I shoot a little pool. What's your game? You know, and I play 8-ball, 9-ball, cutthroat. You know, and they say, oh, that's great. And we start talking about the American Pool Association. We build a connection, right? So that's something you can do. Here's the last example. I met a marketer who loved tacos, so much so that it was in his headline. Well, guess what I love? I love tacos too.
Taco Tuesday, baby.
So I started sending him pictures of tacos from a local taco joint that I frequent. He immediately responded with more pictures of his own tacos. We've had so many taco conversations. And now we're looking at January for building a good plan for working together. Use the things that you love and invite your prospects in to experience them with you. And you're going to find the connection to be so strong, it's hard to say no to you. That's the tactics that I'll deliver to the team today.
Wow. All right. And if you were to share some good value, let's share the most important value you've been able to keep consistent through this whole journey that you've been through.
Guard your time well. Guard it well. Put that forearm up for things that don't matter and say no.
So what are the things that do, so for us, people like us, business owners, we run consultancies, we run sales agencies, marketing agencies. Yeah. I work with a lot of people right now that I'm so busy. I've got a 15-hour day. And I'm just like, why are you doing that to yourself? What the fuck is wrong with you? They're like, and I'm like, yo, you like, give yourself time. You like, just because you don't do it today, it doesn't mean it's not going to get finished. Space your shit out. Give yourself some fucking time to think. So what are you, I don't take me, if you could message me in one message and tell me the point, I do not need to meet with you for fucking 30 minutes. Yeah. I do not need to meet with you for 1 hour to look at a CRM or a fucking report. Like, I don't give a shit, right? To be completely frank with you. Send me a text message, send me a voice note, and make it fucking easy, dude. So for you, what kind of things do you block your time, though, as a business owner? What would you recommend those others do?
Okay, so I'm going to give a couple pieces of information here to help with this. First of all, almost everybody listening to this uses a task manager of some kind, right? Yeah. It's Salesforce, it's Asana, it's SalesLoft, it's Outreach. It's something that they're using that they come in and that's the tasks that they have due today, whatever those tasks might be. Look at the task list. Now, open another tab and pull up your calendar. If you know how long these tasks take, just go ahead and block the time off on your calendar to get them done. Now, nobody can sneak in and be like, I'm going to stop you from completing that task today by calling you into a meeting that you didn't have scheduled. Right? And that's your time. And now and then I'm going to come to you at the end of the day and go, why didn't you get that task completed? And you're going to say, well, I wanted to, but then you asked me to jump into this meeting and that took 30 minutes that I wasn't really planning on giving you today. This is the circle that we live in. So when you get asked to join that meeting, you can say, actually, I'm working on this task and send them that task and say, I can meet up right after. I'll let you know when I finish. Right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes your leadership is handing you things that you didn't expect, but you had allocated that time for something else. There's nothing wrong with saying to your leader, hey, listen, I had this scheduled for this time. I'm happy to deprioritize that and take that over and make that a priority. Is that what you want me to do? Also know that I haven't hit my quota yet. So everything you're asking me to do might hinder me to be able to hit that number that you pay me to hit every month. These types of conversations open the eyes of these leaders to what your real value is. We are all wearing a lot of hats if you are successful in the modern age.
Mm-hmm.
Period. The end. High utility wins the game. We are the longest employed people at every company because we do lots of things.
It's very true. No, it's very, very true. So if you were to make some recommendations for anybody listening who may not be, we got to pause.
I'm good. We're good.
All right. So no, it went off for a second. So if you were to give any advice to those watching this that, let's say they're not in the best shape of their lives, they're not mentally fit, they're spiritually, they're lacking a spiritual kind of overall well-being. What would you recommend or suggest they look into or start researching to maybe take on the same kind of journey as we have, however they want to approach it? But
Hmm.
again, the experience and the outcome is a complete overall transformation and change for betterment, confidence,
Yeah.
fulfillment, and good thing. And the one thing I want people to recognize is when you do good things and you live life by your values
Hmm.
and you stay aligned, good things happen. And everything seems to be good, right? If something seems bad, it's usually to clear a path for more of an opportunity. If you run into something that is quite tough and you feel like you want to give up, God is clearing a path and putting a challenge in front of you to build strength or to build resilience in something else that follows. So for me, that's one of the things that I've learned. Like I stay consistent, I stay true to my values, I focus on what's right, and everything around me connects, makes sense, and it happens the way I need it to happen. And I trust God in the process. Whoever got good orderly direction, the higher power, whatever you guys want to call it, I trust that it's all going to work out. And it has. So for you, what do you think people should take heed to and then take that into the new year for them?
So you mentioned God there. I would say study religion in general. Study organized faiths of all kinds. You'll find that those lessons transfer really well into your ethical backbone. And that makes you much more comfortable and much more secure in what you do when you believe in it, when you think it's right. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my take on that. I'm far more spiritual than I am religious. So that's my very worldly view on that. I'll also say that time management and task management are not the same thing. And once you realize that those things are very different, you can take steps to be able to be more effective with your time. And
Mm-hmm.
you can guard your personal time. I am diligent about what's on my calendar. If it is not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. Sorry, right?
I agree.
That's my Bible, if you will. That's my Bhagavad Gita. That's my Tao. Whatever book that's my Torah, if you will. Notice that I've
Mm-hmm.
studied a lot of these books, right? These things are extremely effective when you get good at them and you start to practice them. Manage your stress well. Stress is a killer of your mood, of your productivity. It's a distraction. It can be something detrimental both personally and professionally. Your family's falling apart, but your professional life is thriving. Your professional life is in pieces, but your personal life is amazing, right? Find the thing that works. Pragmatism is something everybody should study. What does it mean? How do I find it? Learn to A/B test things. Embrace change. One of my things I'm trying to embrace is more AI tools because I'm an old man. I'm 43, and I look at AI tools and go, "This is confusing, and I don't have time to learn it." And then I go back to what I've always done. It's a typical 43-year-old,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yep.
remember talking about 43-year-olds when I was 21 and thinking about it in this way. But, you have to remember who we are, right? Like this is all like a self-awareness. That skill is something everybody should develop. So that's probably a lot more advice than what somebody wanted in 30 seconds, but I feel like all of these things play into us being better humans. And isn't that the game? We need to be better humans.
Listen, you can do amazing things when you take care of yourself. I would say that take care of yourself. It
Yeah.
is not ideal to neglect the one. Like, don't be hard on yourself. As much as I joke around about all these things, I always say to myself, why on earth would I be like an enemy to myself? Why would I treat myself badly? Right? Be good to yourself. Take care of your body. Eat well. If you don't know how to eat well, research it. Use AI. It's free and get in the gym. Like so I work with a few people right now, and they're saying, Shane, I feel down. I don't know what it is. And I said, look, I think you just need to get some movement. A lot of people are isolated at home. They still work remotely. Some of them don't thrive in these environments and can't manage time. So I look at it, you got to stay true to that. So let's say somebody's watching this now and they want to get into a program next year, but they can't afford it and they're in sales. So we want to help them close up the year strong. Hey, we've got an end of year discount. Can you sign off so I can get my da-da-da-da-da for the end of the year? We got some outdated methods that a lot of people are going. Give one method, strategy, tactic that a sales rep can use to close up on some of these end of year deals.
Yeah,
Something that would work.
So I would say your best bet is to make it as transactional as possible and point to the fact that this needs to be on this year's paper. You got to use that jargon from a financial perspective because budgets are being allocated for next year. Some cases, a lot of cases, they're already allocated. They were in November, right? Mm-hmm. So like if you're looking at how the paper is going to unfold, you need to know, what does it look like? So I did this great show with Hannah Ajikawa, and she's really good at finding out, is there even a deal that can close? So there's like 3 points to this. Go follow her to find them. I'm not gonna spoil it for her, right? But Hannah Ajikawa has a way of finding, like, is there a deal? Is there momentum? Should I focus my time on this? You have to be able to identify that before you can figure out, will it close before year's end? Because a lot of times you're going to get people that are very quick to say, my budget's already spent. We're not going to look at this until January. Perfect. You don't have to wait any more time for the rest of December to get that deal because you know it won't happen until January. Timing is everything. No one's ever gone to the grocery store and bought milk because somebody from the grocery store called and was like, Shane, come on back. We got the milk, right? Like that's not a thing, right? People buy shit when they need shit. Right. So when they tell you it's not going to happen until January, you can hold them accountable for that in January. Right. A big fat pipeline solves most of our problems. That's my friend John Barrows that says that all the time. That's a very true statement. So you come back to them. You be consistent. You drive that pipe. Build the big fat pipe. Build the system that helps you to follow up consistently, always adding value. And I promise you, more deals will close that way than, can I give you a discount? What you've done there is you've told them outright, I knew this wasn't worth what I originally charged you when I charged you. And that is, you might as well wear a red flag that says, I am a shitty salesperson. If that is because not only will they never buy from you, but they're going to tell their friends that story.
Yeah.
Yo,
we got a discount.
Be careful with that company. They came at me for $25K and then tried to get me to sign for 15 in December. That's shitty. Right. And like, because if they say that verbally to a group of 10 of their peers, how many people are they going to tell? And so on and so forth. And then it becomes an article about an unknown salesperson at an unnamed company. And you know, when you read it, holy shit, that's me. I made that call. You do not want to end up being that anonymous salesperson in that article. I assure you.
Well, wrapping it up, then I would highly agree with you on that. If we were to wrap up the show, then what's happening for Say What Sales? What's happening for Sell Better in 2025? What should people be paying attention to?
Yeah, okay. So Say What Sales is still a thing. I love my personal brand. It's what got me where I'm at. But I think it's time to evolve, right? And like part of me is like, let's relaunch this version of me. But the other part of me is like, why would I do this? I do not want to be bucketed in the influencer category. And because I don't want to be in that bucket, it doesn't make sense for me to continue down this same path of influencer activity, behavior, if you will. So,
wow.
Say What Sales will continue to host the Sell Better Daily Sales Show and drive value to the audience that is invested in themselves, that comes to the Sell Better Daily Sales Show to get 1% better every day. And I will continue to create great conversations with sales leaders, sales professionals, so that those tactics can be adopted by that audience. I will also continue to serve our sponsors and drive great technology into the hands of that audience, because I think our audience is the best audience on the planet. They come into the room and they ask questions and they're really relevant with the stuff that matters to them. And that is not a webinar. It's a show. It's something that's built for them. So that's what you can look for this year with Say What Sales. I'm going to be trying to find the best tech so that I can get it in the hands of my audience so they can sell better. That's why it's called Sell Better, right? Mm-hmm. Then I'm going to be creating the best experiences between the guests and the audience so that we can get what's really needed out there for the evolution of what I think is the greatest business on the planet when it's done. Again, I have to quote my friend, John Barrows. When done right, sales is the greatest career in the world. When done wrong,
I believe it.
Worst.
No, it's very true. So does anything change for Sell Better then? So Say What Sells, the image you have, everything around that. But then does anything change for Sell Better? Is there anything new that you take on?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I would look for Sell Better to diversify in topics and audience members. I'd like to attract more than just SaaS and tech to the show. You know, what do manufacturing salespeople care about? And how do insurance salespeople crack their way into a new account these days? I feel like the tactics that are often talked about on Sell Better are universal when it comes to outreach, and they'll transfer over into industries. And there are too many industries out there that need a facelift when it comes to the way that they do sales. So that's what I'd like to provide in 2025 is a more diverse conversation about things that are sales related so that more salespeople from different industries and different verticals can come learn from the people that are doing it well in the space.
Last question. It's been said for the past 10 years. It never remains true. Will cold outbound die in 2025?
Not a chance in hell. I believe that cold outreach will always be the quickest way to new conversation. And let's not forget that new revenue is generated from new conversations. And any successful business will agree with me. And if you look at any business that went out of business and ask them why it happened, the number one reason that they give you is we stopped selling things.
I think that's a great way to wrap it up, right?
Absolutely. I think so.
All right.